The distress call had been drifting through the void for 7 years. By the time it reached the core worlds of the galactic Concordium, the sender was long dead. Or so they assumed. A shrill, desperate plea for help, broadcast on all known frequencies. The kind of message civilizations only sent when they were facing annihilation. This is the High Council of Velmara requesting immediate aid. We are under siege. Our defenses have failed. Please anyone. Then static. Velmara was a colony on the farthest edge of the galactic map, a world rich in resources but strategically unimportant. The Concordium had considered expanding there once but dismissed it. Too dangerous. Too close to the silence. No one had heard from Velmara in years. Most assumed the colony had fallen. The distress signal proved them right. And yet, someone answered. The Deathworlders arrive. When the Concordium fleet finally responded to the call, they did not come alone. They brought humans. The Deathworlders. Every major species in the galaxy knew of them. They were a nightmare-given form, creatures born from a world so hostile, so violent, that their very existence defied probability. And yet, despite their brutality, humans had joined the Concordium as allies. Even though their fleet was small. Even though their numbers were few. They fought with a ferocity no other species could match. And so, when the Concordium fleet warped into the Velmara system, they found the humans were already there. A fleet of black, angular warships, cutting through the void like predators scenting blood. At the front of them, the flagship, the dreadnought Vengeance. And on its bridge, the most feared warlord in human history. Admiral Grant Marlowe. The silence speaks. Velmara was burning. Where once had been a thriving colony, now only ruins remained. Cities had been leveled. The atmosphere was thick with ash and ionized metal. And yet, somehow the distress call was still transmitting. This is wrong, muttered Kelvaris, the Concordium commander. His claws twitched as he studied the readings from the wreckage below. There's nothing left. So why? The signal changed. For the first time in 7 years the voice shifted. They are still here. Kelvaris froze. What? And then, the enemy revealed itself. The ones who came before. They came from the dark places of the void. Ships that should not exist, appearing in waves pouring out from the atmosphere of the ruined world below. They were not Concordium. Not even known galactic species. They were old. Ancient beyond reckoning. And their warships did not fly, they flowed, like living shadows against the stars. Kelvaris had never seen them before. But the humans had. Marlowe leaned forward on his command throne, eyes dark. So, he muttered, voice grim. They're still alive. Kelvaris turned sharply. You know them? The human warlord's expression was cold. We killed them once. The Concordium officer's stomach twisted. You mean? Marlowe's voice was stone. We fought them before. And we're about to do it again. The alien fleet opened fire. And the Deathworlders charged. The void between the stars erupted in fire. The alien warships, silent, shifting constructs of living darkness, opened fire without hesitation. Lances of black energy, deeper than the void itself, streaked across the battlefield, consuming anything they touched. Concordium ships caught in the blast didn't just explode, they vanished, erased from existence in a way that defied physics. And yet, the human fleet did not waver. Marlowe's voice was calm as he gave the order. All ships engage at will. Let's remind these bastards why they should have stayed dead. The Deathworlder fleet moved like predators scenting blood. The Vengeance led the charge, its massive railguns spinning up, unleashing slugs the size of city blocks at relativistic speeds. The moment they hit the enemy ships, the impact shattered reality itself, sending shockwaves rippling through space. But the Black Fleet was unnatural. They did not react like normal ships. Instead of dodging or shielding themselves, they simply shifted, their forms bending around the incoming fire like liquid void. The railgun slugs vanished into the blackness. Kelvaris, watching from the Concordium flagship, felt his blood chill. Our weapons do nothing, he whispered. Marlowe smirked. Then we hit them harder. The human doctrine, overkill. The alien ships pushed forward, undeterred. Their dark hulls seemed to drink in the light, growing larger, their forms unfolding as if they were no longer bound by normal dimensions. But the humans had seen this before. They knew what to do. Marlowe's voice rang through the fleet. Bring the lances online. Kelvaris turned, confused. Lances. The Vengeance's main guns rotated, massive, spike-like weapons crackling with unstable energy. Then, without warning, they fired. Beams of pure destruction lanced across the void. The first alien warship in the beam's path froze mid-movement, and then came apart, shredded at the atomic level. The darkness that made up its form screamed as it unraveled, fading into nothingness. The rest of the Black Fleet hesitated. Kelvari stared in disbelief. "You developed weapons specifically to kill them?" Marlowe's expression was grim. "We don't fight to survive." He leaned forward. "We fight to win." The death of Velmara. The battle raged on, but the humans had shifted the tide. Where the Concordium fleet struggled to land a hit, the Deathworlders fought with precision. Every strike was meant to eliminate, not just disable. But the Black Fleet was not merely defending itself. They were stalling. Marlowe saw it before anyone else. His hands tightened into fists. "They're not here to fight us." Kelvaris blinked. "What?" "They're here to finish what they started." And as they watched, the alien fleet descended, diving toward Velmara itself. Marlowe's eyes went cold. All ships, full pursuit. But they were too late. The moment the first of the Black Fleet's ships touched the ruined planet's surface, Velmara ceased to exist. Not an explosion. Not destruction. Gone. One moment a world. The next, a hole in the universe itself. The silence returns. The battle ended in a way no one expected. The moment Velmara vanished, the Black Fleet stopped. They did not retreat. They did not press their attack. Instead, one by one, they vanished into the void as if their purpose had been fulfilled. The Deathworlders did not chase. Because they understood. This had not been an invasion. It had been a message. Kelvaris, shaken, turned to Marlowe. "What happens now?" The human admiral's expression was unreadable. "Now." He exhaled, eyes locked on the empty void where Velmara had once been. "Now we hunt them down." And as the Deathworlder fleet turned its sights toward the darkness, the galaxy held its breath. Because when humans declared war, they did not stop until the enemy was ash. The Deathworlder fleet did not leave. Where the Concordium hesitated, unsure of what to do next, the humans acted with absolute certainty. Velmara had been erased. Not destroyed, not glassed, not bombarded into ruin, but erased from reality itself. And that was unacceptable. "Admiral," one of the human officers spoke. "No residual debris. No atmospheric remnants. It's as if the planet was never there." Marlowe clenched his fists. He had seen this before. The Black Fleet had done this to Earth once. Almost. Humanity had barely survived that first war. They had lost billions. Entire continents consumed before the last counterstrike had sent the enemy into retreat. The records had called it extermination warfare. And now the enemy was back. "We are going after them," Marlowe ordered. "Track their movement. I want every single black ship hunted down." Kelvaris, still struggling to process the loss of an entire world, hesitated. "Admiral, the Concordium fleet must regroup." "This battle?" Marlowe didn't even look at him. "Then regroup somewhere else. We're not done." The humans would not retreat. Because Deathworlders did not believe in defense. They believed in annihilation. The last coordinates. There were no trails in space. No atmospheric disturbances, no heat signatures to track. And yet, the Deathworlders found them anyway. They didn't need scanners or probes. They only needed history. The Black Fleet was not new. Humanity had encountered them before. And before that war had ended, they had gathered everything they could on these creatures. Their patterns, their technology, their weaknesses. One weakness above all. They always returned to the same place. The edge of the Great Rift. A section of the galaxy where light itself refused to travel. A stretch of space so utterly dark that even the oldest galactic maps refused to mark it. A dead zone. The last remnants of an ancient war. And the home of the Black Fleet. "Set course," Marlowe ordered. "No delays." "Admiral," Kelvaris hesitated. "We have no idea what's waiting for us there." Marlowe's eyes were cold. "We already know. Because the first time humanity had fought these things, the Black Fleet had called themselves by another name. The Forgotten. The last remnants of those who came before. And they had returned to finish what they started. The ambush. They reached the Great Rift in 3 days. And the moment they arrived, they realized the truth. The Black Fleet had been waiting. Contact. Multiple signatures. Weapons lock. They knew we were coming. The trap sprang shut. A fleet larger than anything they had seen before emerged from the void. Not dozens, not hundreds, thousands of ships, their black hulls shifting like liquid shadow. They had drawn the Deathworlders into their domain. Brace for impact. The void erupted. Black beams of annihilation streaked across the stars. Human warships twisted, engines flaring as they dodged, counter-fired, and fought like monsters from hell itself. They want to erase us? Marlowe's voice was a snarl. Then let's remind them, Deathworlders don't die easy. And the true battle began. The battlefield was a nightmare of light and shadow. The void twisted as human warships tore through reality itself, firing weapons designed not just to kill, but to erase. The Deathworlders fought like cornered predators, a force of pure destruction. For every ship they lost, they took 10 with them. For every beam of black annihilation that lanced through their hulls, they answered with railgun slugs that could crack moons and lance cannons that burned through the fabric of the enemy itself. And yet, the Black Fleet did not falter. They had fought humanity before. They had nearly won. And this time they would not make the mistake of leaving survivors. Admiral Marlowe's last stand. The bridge of the Vengeance shook violently as a black lance of energy carved across its hull. Alarms screamed. Hull plating peeled away. But the ship did not fall. Marlowe wiped the blood from his face and grinned. We're still here. His officers held their ground. Humans did not break. Kelvaris, wounded and wide-eyed, watched in horror as the battle unfolded. Admiral, we're losing. Marlowe exhaled, staring at the endless Black Fleet before them. He knew. The Deathworlders had come to hunt. Instead, they had found an extermination force. They were not meant to win. And yet, humans don't die easy, Marlowe whispered. His mind was already calculating. They couldn't win. Then they would make sure the enemy paid the price in blood and fire. All ships, final strike. The doomsday weapon. There was one last weapon. Something the Deathworlders had built in secret after the First War. Something they had never used. Until now. Release the exosingularity. Kelvaris gasped. Admiral, you can't. But the order had already been given. From the depths of the Vengeance, a final weapon activated. A device that should never have existed. Something built not to destroy, but to erase. A weapon that would make sure the Black Fleet never returned. The rift itself began to collapse. The end of the Black Fleet. The void screamed. Reality bent. The Black Fleet, unstoppable until now, began to die. Their ships did not explode. They unraveled. Just like Velmara. Kelvaris watched in horrified awe as the impossible happened. The Great Rift was consuming itself. The Black Fleet, erased from history. And at the center of it all, the Vengeance, burning, broken, but still standing. Admiral, the weapon. Marlowe's voice was calm. Resolved. We don't run. The Deathworlders had come to end a war. And in doing so, they had sealed their own fate. The last transmission. The Concordium received one last message before the rift collapsed. A video recorded from the ruins of the Vengeance. Marlowe, standing among fire and wreckage, staring at the camera. Unbroken. His words were simple. If they ever return, so will we. And then, silence. The Great Rift was gone. The Black Fleet was gone. And with it, the last of the Deathworlders. The legend of humanity. Kelvaris would go on to tell their story. To warn the galaxy. To remind them of the species that had fought like monsters and died like legends. And in the darkness of the unknown, when new threats arose, the younger races would whisper. Humanity will return. Because Deathworlders don't die easy. Fire the end. And as always, subscribe to the Void Narratives for more epic sci-fi.